Hello everyone, a wonderful good evening to you all. I am Ms. Bhavna, working as microbiology lecturer at TTWRTC Devarakonda. So, in today's class, I am going to say about nosocomial infections. So, what are nosocomial infections? That means hospital-acquired infections are called as nosocomial infections. So, why I have chosen this topic means we all know that this world is suffering from COVID pandemic. In one way or the other way, if we get any small trouble also, we are going for the hospitals for checkup. Not only us, we go with our relatives, we go with our friends, without taking any precautions, we are rushing out to the hospitals. So, just I wanted to let you know that we are all getting diseases because of hospitals also. So, you call them as a nosocomial infections. Just I wanted to make you aware of the nosocomial, that is hospital acquired infections, and what are the precautions to be taken to avoid these kind of infections. So let us have a brief look on these nosocomial infections. After the end of this section, students will be able to understand what are nosocomial infections, and they can define nosocomial infections. They can demonstrate the main clinical characteristics of nosocomial infections, and they can point out the occurrence of the disease, and they can list the causative agent, mode of transmission and incubation period of the nosocomial infections, and they can able to define the control strategies of the nosocomial infections, and they can list the main preventive measures of the nosocomial infections, and in their day-to-day life they can also follow these precautions, how to prevent nosocomial infections, how they should take care of themselves in order to get rid of those hospital acquired infections while they are traveling to hospitals with their relatives or friends or themselves. Okay, let us have a brief outlook on this. So, coming to the introduction of these nosocomial infections. Nosocomial infection comes from the Greek words nosos. Nosos means disease, and comial means to take care of. So, to take care of means hospitals or the places where we can get good health. So, these are called as a hospital acquired infections or hospital associated infections. So, infections are considered nosocomial if they first appear 48 hours or more after hospital admission or within 30 days after discharge. So, before entering into the hospital, we are not suffering with this disease, but we will get this disease after we admit in the hospital or after the discharge from the hospital. So, we are getting this disease after the admission into the hospital and after the discharge of 30 days in the hospital from any disease. So, as we have already discussed, nosocomial infections are the infections developing in the patients after admission into the hospital, which was neither present at the time of admission or they are present after the discharge. A patient can suffer from nosocomial infection after the 30 days of the discharge. So, they may become evident during patient's stay or after the discharge. So, we can see the symptoms of these nosocomial infections at the stay of the hospital. So, that patient may not be suffering before the admitting into the hospital. They get this disease at the stay of the hospital. So, these are called as a hospital associated infections. So, from where does these infections come? So, these infections are coming from the microbes which are present everywhere in the hospitals. Those microbes are from the different patients. So, we all know hospitals are the places where people of different diseases, they come and they take medicine in the hospital, they take treatment in the hospital. So, there are not many microbes in the hospitals like bacteria, virus, fungi, protozoa and many more things. They can be scattered everywhere in the hospitals, like on hospital equipment, on the clothes of the hospital workers or doctors, etc. So, these microbes which are responsible for causing these hospital acquired infections, they are from the patient's own flora. So, we know that every human being, they are composed of normal flora. So, apart from the pathogens, humans, they are having normal flora on their body, which are responsible for the good health of an individual. So sometimes whenever a human immune system gets lowered, whenever his immunity gets decreased, their own normal flora itself it acts as a pathogen and they cause infections. They take the chance to cause an infection. So the microbes come from the patient's own flora, and also infected patients will be there in the hospitals. So there might be cross infection from medical personnel and also cross infection from patient to patient. So hospital infections may be acquired from one patient to another patient. For example, we are going to the hospital for example, let us take COVID test. So actually we are suffering with common cold, but due to panic, due to the situations prevailing outside, we have a fear of that COVID. So we went for the hospital to take COVID test. But there are some other patients who are suffering from TB. So while we are taking the COVID test, that TB person, they might affect us. So we might get TB as a nosocomial infection, and also we get those microbes from the air which is present in the hospital, water and the dust from the beds of the patients, dust surrounding the hospitals like that, and also IV fluids and catheters. See, IV fluids and catheters, these are responsible for the nosocomial infections. Catheters are nothing but the instruments which are used to take urine sample for the disease diagnosis, and also wash bowls and bed pans, endoscopes, ventilators and respiratory equipment. So these days we are seeing that patients are suffering from breathing problem, then we will use ventilators, no? So if any of these hospital instruments are not sterilized properly before using to the new patient, there may be a probability of getting these nosocomial infections to those patients. There may be probability of getting these infections as a secondary infections to the patients. See. Because of these needles, because of catheters, and these are all responsible for the disease, and the gloves used by the physicians. So here we have to remember one more term, that is iatrogenic infection. You call them as a physician-induced infections. So because of these gloves used by the physicians, we are getting disease. Some patients are getting disease. You call them as a iatrogenic infections or physician-induced infections. And during surgeries, doctors use many instruments like scissors, scalpels, threading instruments, etc. So, if those are not sterilized properly, if the physician, they do not wash their hands properly, it may affect while surgeries. Because of unsterilized equipment, those healthy individuals, they are prone to these nosocomial infections. Then coming to the sources of infection, the sources may be endogenous sources or exogenous sources. So endogenous sources are nothing but the source is from the patient itself. We have discussed regarding normal microbiota or normal flora. So patient's own flora, they may invade patient's immune system, patient's body whenever their immune system is lowered. So during operations or instrumental mishandling, the patient's own microflora, they may enter into those wounds and cuts such that they are causing these infections. And also normal common cells of the skin, respiratory tract, gastrointestinal tract and urinogenital tract. All the normal flora of these areas, they act as a pathogens. Coming to the exogenous source is from the outside. So that healthy individual, he is getting that microbes from another patient. That means just now we have discussed, when we go to hospital for a test, we do not take proper precautions, then another person, he might have come there for some other test, we will get affected with that infection. So there may be environmental sources like inanimate objects, air, water, food. So hospital food also, if it is not handled properly, it may affect the person's health. And cross infection from other patients, hospital staff, suffering from infections, or there may be some asymptomatic carriers. That means they are having the infection but they are not showing any symptoms. We call them as a carriers. Because of such carriers also we are prone to such nosocomial infections. See, these are the sources of nosocomial infections or hospital acquired infections. Contaminated hospital environment. Hospital environment should be sterilized properly. That means if any bed is evacuated by some patient, if a patient gets discharged, we have to sterilize that bed properly. And also coming to these invasive devices like urinary catheters, sterile needles, injections and everything, those should be sterilized properly before using to the new patients. And also the ventilators, nebulizers, all those things should also be sterilized, otherwise they are prone to airborne infections like influenza, TB, etc. And coming to the mode of transmission, how these infection gets transmitted, it is by various methods like contact transmission and inanimate objects. Contact transmission is through direct contact, like with hands and clothing. Example, coming to the example, it is Staphylococcus aureus, Streptococcus pyogenes. This Staphylococcus aureus, it is present as a normal flora all over our body, but whenever there is a cut or there is a wound, those organisms, it enters our body through that wound, through that cuts, and it is causing pyogenic infections. That means pus forming infections. That is the reason if you are not, if that cuts or wounds are not treated properly, you will get pus around that area. Coming to the non-inanimate objects, it includes fomites. Fomites means the things which are used by the patient, like his towels and some glasses, plates used by the patient. You call them as a fomites. Examples: Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Clostridium tetani spores, etc. Coming to the routes of transmission, in the previous slide we have discussed about the direct contact and through inanimate objects. How those microbes get entered into our body means through direct contact by cloths and fomites, through ingestion. Ingestion means engulfing of the contaminated food. This is by oral route via food and multi-drug resistant bacteria. Whenever a drug resistant bacteria enters our alimentary canal through our mouth, we are prone to such diseases, nosocomial diseases. That we have discussed regarding Staphylococcus aureus. It is example of this multi-drug resistant bacteria. It kills off our normal flora such that causing secondary infections. Parenteral route. Parenteral route is nothing but through injections, through contaminated needles or syringes, pricks, and also blood transfusion methods. Improper blood transfusion methods, it also leads to the nosocomial infections. Coming to the inhalation. Inhalation means inhaling the aerosols or droplets which are filled with these organisms, infectious agents like COVID organism, TB organism, influenza virus, etc. So, through the inhalation of those spores, those aerosols and droplets, they are prone to these nosocomial infections. And finally, vector-borne infections. Vector-borne transmission. It is by ticks, mites, mosquitoes, houseflies, fleas, etc. So, whenever a mosquito bites healthy individual after biting the patient, we are prone to the disease which that patient is suffering. Here is a detailed description of the contact route of transmission. We will continue in the next slide. Welcome back. So, these infections which get transmitted by aerosols are pneumophilia, pneumonia and COVID. Recently we are seeing this COVID. See, parenteral route of transmission, as we have already discussed, it is through disposable syringes and needles, unsterilized syringes and needles, and also certain infections may be transmitted by blood transfusion, contaminated blood products. Examples: hepatitis B and HIV. These are the vector-borne diseases and vector-borne route of transmission. The transmission is through insects and fleas. These insects, when they bite healthy individual, after biting the patient, they are prone to these nosocomial infections. And there are some factors which are responsible for these nosocomial infections. Those are the microbial agent, patient susceptibility, environmental factors, and bacterial resistance. With the simple infection of the host with that pathogen will not get the disease to the host. For the host to develop a disease, some of the host factors are required. Those are resistance and immunity. For immunocompromised host or a low immune host, diseases are very often. And coming to the genetic factors, some are very prone to few diseases, hereditary diseases. And coming to the physiological factors, age and sex, social and habitual factors, all these things, they are responsible for causing infections in the host. Coming to the environmental factors, there are physical, biological, socio-cultural and economical factors. For example, alcoholic people will be more prone to TB or AIDS. Okay, so these socio-cultural practices or economic practices, all they play a vital role in the causing of the disease. Coming to the microorganisms, so any pathogen which are present on the human body as a normal flora, they can be able to cause disease. That means they actually they reside in the human body as a common cell. But whenever the human immune system is lowered, these common cells, they become a pathogen and they cause disease. For example, Staphylococcus epidermidis, it is present in the skin of the human body, and also it causes intravenous infections, and also Escherichia coli. Escherichia coli causes urinary infections. Coming to the pathogenic bacteria, they have greater virulence and they cause infections. They may be sporadic or epidemic, regardless of host status. These are the bacteria which are able to cause nosocomial diseases. As we have already discussed, they belong to gram-positive bacteria, Staphylococcus aureus, which is responsible for the pyogenic infections. That means they cause infections near wounds. And also in hospitals, commonly 40 to 50% of Staphylococcus aureus, it isolates or MRSA. MRSA are nothing but methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. It is normally called as hospital Staphylococcus. That bacteria is very much resistant to all the drugs. And also Staphylococcus epidermidis and group D streptococci. In Streptococcus species, Streptococcus hemolyticus, Streptococcus pyogenes. Coming to Clostridium tetani spores, it causes tetanus. They can survive in dust for a very long time. So all these bacteria, they are present in the hospital environment near patients. Whenever the host, healthy individual, they are not maintaining proper hygiene, they can cause diseases. And these are the gram-negative bacteria like Enterobacteriaceae family members, E. coli, Proteus, Klebsiella, Enterobacter, Serratia. So all they are present as a intestinal microflora in our body. Whenever the immunocompromised host they gets into the hospital, and whenever his immune system is lowered, they will cause diseases in them. And these organisms, they are highly antibiotic resistant. They are very much resistant to all kind of, that is most kind of antibodies. Coming to Pseudomonas species, it is often isolated in water and damp areas. So it may occur because of the improper hygiene in the environment of the hospital. So they may colonize the digestive tract of hospitalized patients, and they may cause diarrhea. That means they are causing secondary infections in the patients, and patients they are taking many medicines to cure the primary infections. At that case, they are lowering their immune system, so they take the chance to cause the disease. And also many viruses like HIV and hepatitis B, these are blood-borne diseases. These viruses, they are transferred through the blood and they are causing this HIV and hepatitis in the patients. And viral diarrhea and chickenpox then can be spread in hospitals. Cytomegalovirus, herpes virus, influenza virus, enterovirus and arenavirus, they can cause HAI disease. Coming to the fungi, Candida albicans, Aspergillus, mucor, they are responsible for the fungal nosocomial infections. And protozoa like Entamoeba histolytica, which is responsible for the amoebiasis, Plasmodium, malaria, Toxoplasma gondii, Pneumocystis carini. So all these are responsible for the protozoal diseases. And already we have discussed regarding the modes of transmission. These are the common types of nosocomial infections. Primarily urinary tract infections. We get these urinary tract infections due to usage of catheters. And these are the bloodstream infections by improper blood transfusion methods. Tetanus infections by not maintaining proper hygiene during surgeries. And also gastrointestinal tract infections whenever the host immune system is lowered, and surgical site for wound infections whenever that surgical site is not sterilized properly with the proper antibiotic. It is a site for the many organisms to enter into our body and cause disease. And respiratory tract infections like normal flora of our nose, they enter into the respiratory tract and they cause respiratory tract infections. See, common nosocomial infections, urinary tract infections. So most common hospital acquired infections, that means 40% of the nosocomial infections are the urinary tract infections. That means if a patient is using a drug for a long time, if a patient is bedridden in the hospital for a long time, urine bags are kept for them as they are unable to walk and go for their regular activities. In such cases, urinary tract infections are more common. So usually associated with catheterization or instrumentation of urethra, bladder or kidneys. And it is also common in dialysis patients. For example, E. coli, Klebsiella, Proteus, Serratia, Pseudomonas, Candida albicans. All these are responsible for causing urinary tract infections. Coming to the pneumonia, it is a respiratory infection, respiratory nosocomial infection, or you can also call it as a nosocomial pneumonia. It leading cause of mortality in patients suffering from hospital acquired infections. So this pneumonia, patients will get pneumonia as a secondary infection. So recent study have suggested that in the China, COVID patients, when they have joined for the treatment of COVID, but almost 70 to 80% of these COVID patients, they got this pneumonia as a secondary infection. During aspirations in unconscious patients and pulmonary ventilation, because of the improper usage of that ventilators and nebulizers, they are prone to this pneumonia. That means this pneumonia organism, it causes pneumonia in them. Example, Staphylococcus aureus, Klebsiella, Enterobacter, Serratia, Pseudomonas, Acinetobacter, Legionella, E. coli. Diplococcus also, all these organisms, they cause pneumonia. And next, wound and skin sepsis. We are having a special ward for the burns in the hospitals. So, in case of burns or cuts, these wound infections are common. So, follow surgical procedure where causative agents are introduced into the tissue during operations. So, these are more frequent in elderly patients. So, they can manifest within a week of surgery. So, these wound infections, we can see the symptoms of these wound infections after a week of a surgery. After the surgical delivery also, sometimes these wound infections can be seen near that surgical spot. Next, non-surgical wounds due to burns, bed sores. The organisms causing these wound infections are Staphylococcus aureus, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, E. coli, Proteus, Enterococcus, etc. And coming to the gastrointestinal infections, these gastrointestinal infections, it occurs because of the food poisoning. Food poisoning due to the ingestion, and the mode of transmission here is the ingestion of the contaminated food, hospital food. Because of the contaminated hospital food, those patients are getting gastrointestinal infections. Food poisoning due to Salmonella, Shigella, E. coli also. And also these organisms, they release toxins in the stomach, and because of which their gastrointestinal tract get damaged. Symptom may be diarrhea. So E. coli, gastrointestinal, that patient is having the symptom of diarrhea. And also bacteremia and septicemia. So presence of bacteria in the blood is called as a bacteremia, and presence of bacteria and pus in the blood is called as a septicemia. So bacterial invasion of the bloodstream in various hospital acquired infections. So mostly caused by infected intravenous cannulae. Gram-negative bacilli, these are the common pathogens which are responsible for this bacteremia and septicemia. And coming to the tetanus. Tetanus, it is also called as a lockjaw. This is caused by an organism Clostridium tetani. So, inadequate attention to aseptic precautions during surgery. That means that scissors, scalpels, it should be sterilized properly. If it is used with improper sterilization, there may be a chance of acquiring tetanus as a secondary infection to the patients. And use of contaminated dressings or improperly sterilized dressings, and improper disinfection of the site of intravascular injection, inadequate care while cutting umbilical cord of the newborn. So these are the reasons for getting tetanus to the patients. And it is a major frequent infection, nosocomial infection is wound infection. You call them as a pyogenic infections. It is the surgical site infection. You call them as a surgical site infection. Already we have discussed. So the definition is mainly clinical, purulent discharge around wounds. Near the wounds we will see some sort of pus. The infections can be exogenous or endogenous. The main reason for this surgical site infection is the Staphylococcus aureus or Staphylococcus pyogenes bacteria. Coming to the symptoms of these nosocomial infections, most of the nosocomial infections, they are having the symptoms of discharge from a wound in case of wound infections, fever, cough, shortness of breathing, etc. and burning with urination or difficulty urinating, headache, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. So based on the type of nosocomial infection, these symptoms varies. So consequences of hospital acquired infections. What might be the consequences? So because of these hospital acquired infections or nosocomial infections, that patient, he should be forced to stay in the hospital for the prolonged period. So prolonged hospital stay, increased morbidity and mortality, death rate would be increased, and long term consequences on the health of the patients because of these nosocomial infections after the discharge. So these nosocomial infections, they might get the patients after the 30 days of the discharge also. So because of these nosocomial infections, that patient is having the long term consequences on their health and increased cost of treatment. In order to treat these nosocomial infections, we need more money. So there will be increased cost of treatment. Coming to the diagnosis, hospital acquired infections may occur sporadically or as an outbreak, and diagnosis by routine bacteriological methods. We can diagnose these nosocomial infections as just like other bacteriological methods like direct smear examination, culturing by using different kinds of media based on different organisms, and sensitivity testing. We will do sensitivity testing by taking different antibiotics, by comparing how those antibiotics work on such bacteria. And identification and elimination, it requires sampling from possible sources of infections such as hospital personnel, inanimate objects. Okay, in continuation with the previous slide, here is a Staphylococcus organism which is multi-drug resistant. It is called as a MRSA, methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. It can colonize the hospitals and it causes nosocomial infections. Thus, it is popularly known as a hospital Staphylococcus. So, this MRSA, it is a Staphylococcus bacteria. It is resistant to several types of antibiotics. It is a superbug and it is an emerging organism for the research nowadays. And it is it can be mostly seen in the crowded places. And how do you catch this organism? It can be contact with someone who has already had this infection. That means a person who is having this Staphylococcus infection, he is able to spread this organism to another one. And touching the contaminated surfaces. By touching contaminated surfaces, patients are prone to this infection. Symptoms of MRSA. So, irritating red bumps, as you can see here, irritating red bumps, itchiness, rashes, that means pus-filled red bumps, red rashes, pustules can be seen as a symptom of this MRSA. So, if the bacteria enter the bloodstream, infection can spread to other parts of the body and it can cause damage to important organs like heart, liver, lungs, etc. So, in extreme cases, this MRSA, it can cause death of the patients. So, how these nosocomial infections can be prevented? It can be prevented by these techniques. By following these techniques, these hospital acquired infections or nosocomial infections can be prevented by proper sterilization. So, whenever a patient gets discharged, his utilities, his formalities should be sterilized properly with the help of autoclave. All the clothes and all the formalities used by him, it should be sterilized. Sterilization of all reusable equipment such as ventilator, humidifier and nebulizer which come in contact with the respiratory tract. All these should be sterilized properly. And hand hygiene, it is the most important thing one should follow in hospitals. So, most effective intervention to reduce cross transmission of infection is by washing hands. You have to wash your hands properly before and after performing any surgery. And you have to wear gloves. So, these gloves, they provide a protective barrier for the entry of pathogens into our body and they prevent contamination of the hands. And also wearing aprons. So, by wearing aprons, we can prevent ourselves from getting disease. So, by following these methods, one can prevent nosocomial infections. See, these are some of the points to prevent nosocomial infections. See, by administration of antibiotic therapy to the carriers, there are some asymptomatic carriers in the hospitals. Those should be properly given right antibiotics so that they cannot spread those infections to the others. And proper sterilization and disinfectants of the inanimate objects and also the place where that patient was laid. And infection of the excreta and infected material should be done properly. Transmission can be controlled by regular washing of hands, disinfection of equipments, surgical equipments, etc. And use of sterile dressings, surgical gloves, etc. They help in the reduction of these nosocomial infections. Pre-operative and post-operative disinfection should be done. And also proper investigation of hospital acquired infection and treatment of such cases should be done. So, in order to supervise all these things, there is a committee. You call them as a Hospital Infection Control Committee. Hospital Infection Control Committee, HICC. So, every hospital must have this committee in order to supervise whether all these protocols are followed or not. These are responsible for the control of hospital acquired infections. So, that HIC committee, it comprises of these members like chief executive or hospital administrator, chief nurse, clinical microbiologist, staff nurse, infectious diseases physician and pathologist, microbiologist, Chief of Nursing Services, Medical Record Officer, representative from the major clinical specialties, additional representatives, housekeeping staff. All these members should be included. All these members should be present in HIC committee. This HIC committee, it should supervise the protocols to prevent nosocomial infections. So these are the functions of HIC committee. Major function of the HIC committee is to ensure appropriate staff training, safety management, development of policies for the prevention and control of infections, to develop its own infection control manual, to monitor and evaluate the performance of program, to recognize and investigate outbreaks of infections in the hospital and community. So all these things should be done by HICC committee, that is Hospital Infection Control Committee. See, by following all these things, by wearing aprons, by proper disposal of biomedical waste, by using proper sanitizers, hand gloves, by using masks, these nosocomial infections can be prevented. So, hospital infection control. There are few points how to control these hospital infections. By reducing patient exposure to pathogens, reduce the number and virulence of nosocomial pathogens by the usage of aseptic techniques during patient care. That means pre-surgery and post-surgical care, proper hand washing, proper isolation of the patients so that that infection should not spread to another one. Whenever possible, avoid crowding in the hospitals. Use gloves whenever necessary. Wash hands immediately after gloves. Mask, eye protection gown should be properly maintained. These gowns, they protect the skin and soiling of clothing. See, our hands, if we do not wash our hands properly, these hands, they act as carriers, primary sources of the infection. So, in order to avoid nosocomial infections, our hands should be washed properly by hand washing technique, proper hand washing techniques. So, this hand washing, it must be bacteriologically effective. So, wash hands before any procedure in which gloves and forceps are necessary. After contact with infected patient or one colonized with multi-resistant bacteria, one should properly wash their hands. After touching any infective material, one should wash their hands properly with soap and water. They should sanitize their hands with alcohol also. That means any preferable disinfectants. And all the biomedical waste should be disposed properly. And finally coming to the conclusion, there is no official national approach and no real managerial support from authorities for nosocomial infection. Only thing that we can do is proper asepsis, proper hand washing and sterilization. By maintaining proper hygiene and hygiene of the hospital, hygiene of the surroundings, by protecting our own surroundings, we can prevent these nosocomial infections. Thank you.